Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello everyone, welcome to Simracersworld TV for round 9 of the SRW GT Pro Series, brought to you by Porsche Sport. My name is Hasse Rømer. I am here with the young and brilliant Jack Werrell to take you through the action tonight. And we're here at Daytona, of course, at a legendary place. Not 24 hours, but an hour and a half of racing. Jack, your expectations for what we're going to see tonight. Let me hear them.
Well, first of all, good evening, everybody. It's good to be back in the booth, and well, expectations. I've spent a lot of time in a Porsche GTE around here. I raced in the 2019 Daytona 24 Hours, so I think it's going to be a unique challenge for the drivers, because you've got that. It's a weird one really to explain, because you're only 11 meters above sea level, so you're really not far away from the beach. I'm pretty sure you can see it from the top of the motorsport center, but with that heavy undulation and that change of direction in towards turn 1, that is going to be a hot spot for me. And the bus stop, a very unique corner, very quick left, right, and then left again. So lots of different concepts for the drivers to get used to, and it seems like they can't seem to catch a break, because they've been to very, very tricky tracks over the past couple of rounds, and this one is just adding to the list.
And the Daytona track that really, well, you can't really come up with the necessary compromise for setups. I think and this is a driver's point of view at it at least, and it's not like I'm gonna put myself up on any kind of pedestal. I am hardly, I want to say that, without being too rough on myself either way, I want to say I'm hardly even average. But anyway, speaking of Daytona, which we were before, it is indeed, and that was the thing I wanted to mention till I got derailed, as ever so often happens, is that it's with the long straights that you have, the really high top speeds that the car needs to have in order to be able to be competitive in the first place. It's really, really hard to get a car that's really planted as you want through the relatively technical and slow first sector of the track at the infield. So I think we're going to see some drivers struggling with that. And just a legendary place. I wanted to kick off tonight's stream with the legendary Sega Daytona theme, but perhaps everyone wouldn't be happy with that, so I chose in the end not to. Anyways, with that said, let us go to the point standings for a readout here, and I'm just going to take you through it quick and simple. And here it is. Johnny Verhoef, our series leader, with 635 points, And that's a well-given advantage there over teammate Joop de Ligt. Then it's Martin van Dosenoot, who, as far as I understand, who's retired from the series, but still sitting there in third. That just shows how much talent he's packing. He's still up there in third place. Then Sam Bentham, Mario Yuri, then Robin DeVille, Ryan Parkins, Bram van Putten in 8th place, then Jack Ashton, Neil Cooper. And then in 11th there for Team 11. Indeed, that's kind of poetic justice as well for Ewan Marshall. Bud Boland for Meraki, then Sepp Heverer for SRW Esports on 222 points. Pimbao, Jeremy Hessels, Ferris Stanley, and so on. And just to have a quick look at the standings further down, there it is. And of course, we have seen a little bit of, say, attrition, but in a little bit of a different way than we've usually seen it, Jack. Quite a number of people have seemed to be, for some reason, have dropped out of the series.
Yeah, it seems like that. The further we go into the season, the deeper into the more challenging tracks. A lot of the drivers maybe just can't find the time to show up, obviously with external commitments, and the global situation still isn't ideal, so I can understand why. But yeah, a lot of people are dropping off, but this is the perfect opportunity for the other drivers to work their way up through the order. One man that I am really looking forward to watching this evening is Ryan Parkins, currently in provisional P2 for Strasser Porsche Sport, the highest placed Porsche. He's been improving as the season wears on, and he's only been getting quicker. And I think tonight he's really going to set his mark on the championship. I was speaking to him before this evening's proceedings, and he was really looking forward to this. He'd been looking around at different times, and he knew he'd be fairly competitive. And to be up there in provisional P2, fastest car in gold class as well, he is on for one very good night. And Bud Boland as well, in 4th position respectively, 2nd in class for Meraki Racing. Quite a way up the order compared to where we usually see him. So a brilliant job from him so far, and I can't wait to see what he can do.
Indeed, that's a very good point. And the gold drivers really mixing it up on the grid here. We're watching Carl Sharkey currently sitting 14th on the grid as the last few seconds of qualifying is just ticking out, and over here the checkered flag drops, and that means this will be the last lap for Carl Sharkey. I think he was certainly hoping to get to do another one, and he jumps up a single position with that one. But Boland is next up to cross the line, but it doesn't look like any of the drivers currently out has really been improving on earlier times set here. The weather conditions, well, humidity at 43%, so it's not like it's too humid, and a track temp of 21 degrees makes it manageable indeed, and that should be manageable for the duration of the race as well. Ryan Walker's coming up towards the line, but let's see if we can just catch him out on track. There he is, and Pimbao as well. For G-Drive, he is charging along the gold class G-Drive car, so to say, because they packed a number of vehicles in the platinum driver rank or class, if you will. And with that, I think it's that's just about the last car to cross the line, and indeed it is. So in a short moment, we will have the grid on display for you, and Jack Werrell ready for you with the read-through.
So as and when the results get confirmed and this session ticks over from qualifying to race, we will have the qualifying results for you. One person I want to mention is, we were talking about Ryan Parkins, but his stablemate at Strasser Porsche Sport, Carl Sharkey, with that amazing, predominantly Strasser livery, and I've had the privilege of seeing all the Strasser motorsport cars in the flesh, in real life at Brands Hatch, and I've got to say they look amazing. And for the likeness on the 911 RSR, it really does look good, and it looks incredibly quick. Carl Sharkey, I'm hoping he is going to work his way up through the order, and something that we haven't really seen much this season. Normally we see lots of BMW dominance, and I think there's only 8 out on the track this evening. Lots of Porsches, a Ford and a Ferrari, so the BMWs, they've got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, they really will, and sorry for the bit of a laugh, but I was just having a bit of fun in my own head, just thinking about all the times I've tried to time that to perfection. Actually a little perplexed that we aren't able to see the results yet. That is a little bit of a surprise to me. The session's indeed finished, and just as I say it, will you have it? There it is, qualifying results. And Jack, once again, I'll try with the read-through.
So Johnny Verhoeven grasps pole position for Manatee Racing, a 1 minute 39.443, the pole time for himself. Alongside is Ryan Parkins. Row 2 is made up of Sam Bentham and Meraki Racing's Bod Boland. Neil Keeper and Ewan Marshall follow along. Pimbau has Robin DeVille for company. On row 5 of the grid, Sebastian Herberer and Martin van Reewijk. Then we have Jordan McLean for Team Simpact and Jack Ashton for Team Fordzilla starting in 12th. And a very short grid. Finishes out with Carl Sharkey, Paul Gosling, Ryan Walker, David Fuller, and Fury Sim Sports Matthias Temme rounds out your grid in the triple three. Only 17 cars showing up this evening, Hasse. Hopefully that isn't going to reduce anymore, but we know small grids can quite often produce some very, very close racing.
Yeah, indeed, and I think the track also lends itself to keeping the cars close, because with the massive straights that we have here at Daytona, we're going to see the effects of slipstreaming really coming into the full, and it's going to be hard for the cars ahead of any packs forming during this race to break away from the others. It's going to take something at some point, and also just a statement that I want to make about this series in general is that it makes good drivers look average. So the drivers at the 4 of this series, trust me, are looking at some serious level indeed. With the cars all formed up and the new shorter run-in and formation lap, I think, if I'm not completely mistaken, but I might of course be wrong, that I think has been implemented to all tracks by now in iRacing, which is actually pretty nice. We're rolling, and in not too long we'll be green. Welcome everyone, by the way. Just take this chance before we go green for the race, just to welcome everyone along for the broadcast. As I see, actually, I might have a little fixing in to do, because as I see, Ryan Parkins is now driving with a platinum number, so he might just have been moved. And if that's the case, of course, make sure to get that fixed. Anyway, Jack, here we are, race start. We're just about to get running here at Daytona. Let me just get that music turned off so we can enjoy the roar of quite a lot of horsepower here as Johnny Verhoeven goes just that little early to get the jump on Ryan Parkins, and we're green for round 9 of the SRW GT Pro Series here from Daytona. And into turn 1 they go. Oh, it's a tricky spot, this one, on cold tires. So far, let's see. Oh, just as I was about to say, they all got in through it. That's Jack Ashton, and one of the Flemish Sim Sports BMWs getting ever so slightly tangled in.
Yeah, you can see there Jack Ashton throwing it up the inside, trying to gain positions early on. Ryan Walker in the sole Ferrari out on the grid is now up into 14th position, gained a position off the start. Carl Sharkey dropping down 3 positions, maybe not 100% confident on the run through the first sector. Back up the order though, here's Neil Cooper trying to fend off the attentions of Ewan Marshall in that new Team 11 liveried Porsche. Both of those sparring away, but they don't want to slow each other down too much, because Pimbau is there to pick up the pieces if it all goes wrong. Johnny Verhoeven on an absolute charge towards the front end of the order, set purple sector 1 and 2. The man we're looking at the moment though, Martin van der Reewijk, set a purple sector 3, so he's looking good for a good result. His teammate at Simpact Racing, Jordan McLean, in 13th, trying to catch up onto the coattails of Seb Herberer. He will have the draft assistance on the run all the way up to the bus stop. He's a little too far back to even think about a move here, but on the first lap it's all looking very, very clean, Hasse.
Yeah, we've got everyone nice and clean away, or just about, with a little bit of tangling there. Jack Ashton's picked up a little bit of damage to the car. This is one of those tracks with just slight aero damage can really throw you under the bus, because ever so slightly missing that top speed, it's going to be expensive in the end. It's going to be time that you really have to fight. Oh, look at this, Jack! They're going to be double too wide as they cross the line here.
Yeah, very, very close stuff there. Neil Cooper, I think he might have graced the wall. If he didn't, he was very, very close, losing out there, almost cutting across the nose of Pimbau, trying to make places on Ewan Marshall and Bod Boland. There is Neil Cooper now. Pimbau almost getting towards the tail end of Neil Cooper. I hope he continued on without too much of an issue. Let's have a look. How close did he get to the wall? Very, very close. Only a few inches left of spare room there, but It looks like they've all managed to negotiate turn 1. Bod Boland currently coming out on top in 4th position. And Ewan Marshall up a position as well. Neil Cooper has dropped back. Another Seb Herbert there in 12th position, trying to get past Paul Gosling. But look at this, Jordan McLeod almost making contact with the tail end of his BMW M8. Very, very close racing, only on lap 2, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, they're absolutely going for it here. Hammer and Toms. Oh, and someone's going wide. And that is a BMW with that wide behind. That's hard to mistake indeed. That's Paul Gosling in the Quantum car. That's going to give Seb Herbert a very good run. And no real fighting for it here. Jordan McClone's going to sneak on through as well. Right on through. And a nice freebie, as you'd call it maybe, here as they come down towards the bus stop. Gosling's going to be happy to pick up the slipstream of that Porsche 911 though, and they're very close to one another here. And this is a place where you often find yourself really tempted to go for the overtake, and when you go for it, you often also find yourself regretting it, because it's not an easy place to get it pulled off. And if anyone really decides to fight it, it's so easy to have an accident there. So it really, really requires patience here. Neil Cooper with that G-Drive car on the outside, coming into turn 1. And let's see. No, there's not going to be any real fight, and Neil Cooper's going to be able to take the ideal racing line. It's not going to be slowed down too much. And Jack, that braking zone into turn 1, certainly one of the most tricky, well, almost in racing in general.
Yeah, very, very tricky braking zone if you're not 100% confident going into the corner. Somebody who's going backwards into the corner is Seb Herbert after contact with, who was that? That will be, let me have a quick look over to the left-hand side. I'm trying to figure out who that was. But look at this, it's Jordan McClone, maybe not quite anticipating Seb Herbert braking nice and early. I think that could have just been half a gap that Seb was leaving. Oh, a massive moment for Ryan Walker, the Nomad Sim Racing Ferrari, almost ending up back at turn 1. I'm not quite sure how he's managed that. It looks like he might have had contact with another car and contact with the wall. It just kept on going. That could be hardware failure. Let's have another look back, Hasse. Tell us what you see.
So he gets chipped off, and then he gets sent onto the grass, and that's what we saw before, and then he's just sliding on. There's absolutely no grip out there, and you see a little bit of damage. It's fishtailing back and forth. He just tries just to get the grip with whatever's happening to the car. David Fuller, I think, was the car he had that little bit of contact with. That's exiting the middle sector there, and David Fuller also gets sent across the infield, but he manages to get stopped in time. That's a very unlucky situation, because it was the slightest of contacts. It was a small touch indeed, and well, then they went off to Narnia to use a Super GT reference. Here's Ewan Marshall finds himself marshaled towards the outside indeed by Bud Boland, the Manxman in the Meraki BMW there. Oh, he goes wide, and that might open the door here. Look at Neil Cooper, and the G-Drive BMW might be there as well, but it's not an easy place to overtake into the horseshoe here. And Ewan Marshall seems fairly confident there. Neil Cooper seems to have his handful defending from Pim Bao. And then it is not a van, but it's Martin van Rooijbeek in the Simpac car, who's defending now from Robin de Ville, Jack.
Yeah, Robin de Ville there in the background chasing down Martin van Rooijbeek. I noticed the front end of the Flemish Imports BMW has had a bit of contact. I fear that was with the Nomad Sim Racing Ferrari of Ryan Walker, who is out of the race. So we already have our first retirement, only 6 minutes into this 90-minute race. It's still low. Johnny Verhoef up at the front end of the order, with Ryan Parkins now 2 seconds adrift, but he has got to be very, very careful. He can't push too hard trying to keep hold of Johnny Verhoef, because Sam Bentham is there for Ronin Sim Sport Academy, the Platinum driver there, trying to work his way up through the order, almost 2x2 going into the bus stop. Ewan Marshall trying to get past Neil Cooper in desperation. The beautiful Midas sponsored Fury Sim Sport machine. It's Neil Cooper going up the inside later on the brakes. Yeah, but it looks like that was Ewan Marshall just lifting off, giving him as much room as possible on the run through the bus stop. Neil Cooper promoting himself up into fifth position, back to where he started. Pim Bao will have had a great view of this. Andy has the double draft from both the Porsches up the road. Let's see what he does on the run up towards turn 1. He's a little too far back to go for a move there. Early on the brakes, takes it nice and easy through turn 1. I think we are looking at the closest cars out on circuit, Hasse.
Yeah, we very much are. This almost four-way battle with potential to be joined by an increasing number of drivers coming up from behind. The more squabbling they do about, well, the more they'll be at it. And in turn, it also gets more and more dangerous for the drivers. And the risk of pileups seem to increase as you grow in numbers. Here's a big lockup from Neil Cooper. Oh, and behind there, look at that, that's Pimpao losing the rear end. He's in the grass. Oh, and he's wise not to go onto the track. Oh, and look at that, Jack Ashton. Somebody must have put something on the track there because they're losing it. They're losing it, all of them. And Neil Cooper has crashed as well. Jack, what's happened?
Yeah, something's all gone wrong. Oh, and a big hit in the rear left quarter panel from Ewan Marshall. So let's see whether Neil Cooper's car's still tracking straight. It will have a bit of damage on that rear left. Jack Ashton, I think, is still running. Look at the damage on the tail end of that Fury Simsport Porsche. Not what we like to see at all. Down into ninth position. That's Pimbao working his way around the outside. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Neil Cooper just drag that around for a little while longer, because if he can do it, if he can get all the repairs made during one of his mandatory pit stops, it will take an extra pit stop away, but only he knows what the car's handling like. This is Jordan McClone, a big lockup into the hairpin, and then on the grass, thankfully there's a bit of tarmac so he can get the moment collected up, but it's all going wrong. It's like some sort of track condition has changed, but there's lots of mistakes on the way, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, and I can't really seem to get to grips with just what it would be, because it's been just from out of nowhere. Everyone seemed to lose it, and it was just a minute of, well, I can't really explain that, Jack. I've hardly ever seen anything like it, and it was someone has really been standing to gain from it, though. Look at this, Martin van Rooijbeek up into 6th place. He's chasing Ewan Marshall in the Team 11 Porsche. And he's got company from Robin DeVille. And I'll tell you what, Jack, that car of Flemish Simsports, he made contact with Jack Ashton early days on lap 1, just exiting turn 1. Those two made contact, and that is where his little bit of a dent on his left front is from. And that's of course not how you want to start your race. And speaking of dents, that is a massive dent in the rear end of Neil Cooper's Porsche, and that's certainly gonna impede him. And Sepp Heber is now closing in on the car in front as well. That's the car of Paul Gosling, and he's gonna go for it, I think. He's certainly gaining quickly. He must have gotten a much better exit, or the Quantum cars picked up some damage, though it seems to be fairly clean to me. But into the bus stop he goes, and he's passed as well. Sepp Heber up into 11th place here. Pimpao, I think, has he gotten past on Neil Cooper as well? He has. And the question is, I think that's just a relatively non-dramatic straight liner, as you could call it. And Neil Cooper now has to try to use the other cars to drag him along in order to lose as little time as he can with that damage he's picked up to his car, Jack.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much on the face of it. A slight kink in the rear wing, and then a fair bit of damage on the rear left. But you might think, oh, that won't affect the top speed too much, but I just cannot explain how crucial that rear diffuser is to the Porsche, not just only through the corners, but through the straight as well. A little bit of a lockup on the inside front tyre there, so he's evidently struggling behind the wheel of that Porsche. But back to the diffuser, it's so important to channel air as quickly and as efficiently as possible underneath the car. Ewan Marshall now on his way past Martin van Rooijbeek. There you go, nice and easy textbook overtake through the bus stop. I think we've had an incident for Matthias Temme in 15th position. If you look on the left hand side of your screen as well, we have lost 2 drivers already, Jack Ashton and Ryan Walker. Here's Matthias Temme rotating his car through 90 degrees, holds the brakes, gets out the way as quickly as possible. I heard Hasse tense up there, and I'm sure he was doing the same behind the wheel. That could have been a very nasty incident.
That could have been a huge one with good reaction times to keep everyone clean. And that's such situations, it's where it's really put to the test. It's never really easy, and you also find yourself taking a gamble more or less often, because these cars seem to be fairly predictable when they're sliding. The lighter cars often tend to jitter about on the track a little bit more as they grip in, and they can get thrown about a bit more as well. And I think whoever it was in that BMW will be happy that it didn't happen here. Oh man, Martin van Rømer actually is now finding space on the outside of Ewan Marshall, who gets a little bit of a wiggle on here with his rear end, and Martin van Rømer is through, and that was a little bit more dramatic than I was necessarily expecting it to become there. Jack, tell us exactly what you see here.
Yeah, so Martin van der Eyck side by side with Ewan Marshall. Ewan just puts half a tyre on that grass. Does a brilliant job of keeping it pointing in a straight line and keeping it out of the door of Martin van der Eyck. But Martin van der Eyck now back in front. Ewan Marshall still there in 6th position. Robin de Villa has had first class seats to this battle since the race started. Pim Bow now up in 8th position, trying to gain back some of the positions he's lost. Neil Cooper trying to follow him through and do exactly the same. Down 4 positions is Neil Cooper. Carl Sharkey up 3 positions in 10th. He's the biggest mover in the field, actually. I tell a lie. Martin van der Eyck, the man we were just looking at, up 5 positions. Well, I say that. Ewan Marshall has just gone back on the way into the bus stop.
Yeah, it's going to be a deja vu there because he threw it up the inside right at the bus stop. He did the very same thing a few laps ago. So take back the position that Martin van der Eyck had gained upon him. And indeed, we haven't seen a lot of Johnny Verhoeven up ahead of things. He's ahead by 3.5 seconds. And, well, he's showing his class yet again. And of course, it is an unjust fate of a race leader of such class and skill to not get more screen time, indeed, Ray. But it just so happens that when we have a lot of battles going on otherwise on track, well, it just tends to be where the focus goes to, and as such, we don't get to see enough, I want to say, of the leading car. But here he is, Johnny Verhoeven, in the beautiful Manatee machine. That is one of the best looking cars I've seen in a very long time, with the spec map. That is stunning indeed, and just as so is his driving, because that lead of almost 4 seconds down to Ryan Parkins, who in turn has also gathered up momentum and has gotten just over a second down to Sam Bentham in the BMW. And Jack, Ryan Parkins is getting, I'm going to say, 105% out of that Porsche 911. He is really hammering.
He really is. A man of all trades is Ryan. He's quick in pretty much any Porsche he gets in. Hence why Strasser Porsche Sport have snatched him up for both championships that we host here. To do with Porsche Pim Bow. Here we go on the run up towards turn 1. Oh, using almost a bit of the apron as well on the painted line. Look at him, he's got Robin de Villa. He's trying to get Martin van der Eyck up the inside. I think he even thought about getting Ewan Marshall there, but a great move from Pim Bow. No prisoners taken. Martin van der Eyck trying to defend the position all the way around the outside. But let's have a look back at this battle. I think we're going to see a change of position up front and behind. Pim Bow and Ewan Marshall have swapped positions. They proceed to do so. Martin van der Eyck, making contact with the tail end of Neil Cooper, hard into the outside concrete wall. I think that might have just been Neil Cooper dropping in front and maybe hitting the brakes a little too early for Martin van der Eyck's liking. Into the wall, grazes across it as well, takes a cone with him. Yet more damage aboard his 911 RSR. Back to Martin van der Eyck, though you can see he's following on, but with the attentions of Robin de Villa. Johnny Verhoeven up at the front of the order. And to echo your sentiments earlier, Hasse, I couldn't agree more. I think, personally for me, I would rather be looking at all the battles going on than just looking at the leader.
Yeah, indeed, but we've had action, at the top of affairs as well. Because look at this, Sam Bentham, where is Ryan Parkins in this whole situation? He's been off! And it didn't show up on the graphics or so because it's just the runoff area, but he did make a mistake. I did say he was hammering, and we could really see he was pushing. And he's had a little bit of a moment, Ryan Parkins there, as now he's down into 3rd place. That was a huge moment before there. Martin van der Eyck somehow finds his car relatively unscathed, it seemed, although I think he's lost a little bit of pace somehow, somewhere along the lines. That car doesn't look to be as quick as it was. It has a little bit of a dent in the front end there. It was really bad luck though for Neil Cooper, who got pushed into the wall and wasn't really able to see just what happened. And it could easily be both of them, so to say.
Pim Bow on an absolute charge around the outside of Ewan Marshall. Hasse. Pim Bow doing a brilliant job up yet more positions. He's doing an amazing job, not even bothering to sit behind anybody, around the outside, flat out, and there you go, a position made for Pim Bow once again.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, and he's just been showing it all day. He's been starting out relatively patiently there, the Dutchman, and then just as the race has been going on, he's been picking up his pace. And I just want to see what happened here. Ryan Parkins, though, has brought it back up past on Sam Bentham. There he goes. And sneaks up on through. And up into second place again, Jack. That's absolutely brilliant. Oh, look at this Pim Bow with Ewan Marshall for company. And they've got Martin van der Rømer coming back at him as well. So losing a bit of time there. And up ahead, Ryan Parkins. Well, we know he's close to Sam Bentham, but them fighting, well, that's not going to aid him in really chasing down Johnny Verhoef up ahead, our championship leader. Just try and go on board with him for a moment there with the roof cam. As he crosses the line, goes just to take as much as you possibly can of the track there, braking in a straight line, and then it's a longer corner than many will foresee, and a rundown to the hairpin here that's anything but straight. A late apex is needed there as well, and some drivers take a little bit of that curb to max the runoff there, but Johnny Verhoef taking no chances. And then a well set up car will be flat through here into the braking zone on the second of the two hairpins on the infield. And as it opens up, to be careful, watchful on the throttle indeed. And the left-hander here tricky as well as it brings you onto the banking. As you see Johnny Verhoef's car bouncing, that's something that many drivers will experience here. Ewan Marshall, Jack, 6th place. It's looking good for him as well in Team 11.
It is indeed. Porsche definitely bringing something else to the table this evening. However, we have got Bentham, Boland and Bow 3rd, 4th and 5th, all in BMWs. Ryan Parkins, the only one at the moment holding up the flag for Porsche in the top 5. And like you say, if he is getting maybe slightly too focused in his rearview mirror at Sam Bentham, it will hurt his advances for the lead. But Ryan Parkins, the reigning and defending Porsche Club GB Season 1 champion, still there in 2nd place for Strasser Porsche Sport, the 225, though he's losing a little bit of time here purely in the draft from Sam Bentham for running Sim Sport Academy. I don't think he'll be anywhere near close enough on the run up towards turn 1, but the closer you get to the tail end of the car ahead, helped by the draft becomes more and more effective. You can now see Carl Sharkey in the sister Strasser Porsche Sport 911 rattling his way through the bus stop. You can see him bouncing over the curbs. He's chasing down Seb Herbert. Look at this now. Sam Bentham changing position for 2nd place. What happened to Ryan Parkins? Oh, he clipped the grass on the inside. A very unique incident. I can't say I've ever seen that before, but he gets everything back on the road, back square. But once again, a slight mistake from Ryan Parkins has cost him a position.
Yeah, and in the same place as well as before, Jack. That was the second time he's had a small incident there in turn 1. That was a toxic one. You get a feeling that could have gone much worse than it did. Well kept by Ryan Parkins. Here's Bud Boland, Pim Bow 5th, and Ewan Marshall in 6th place. And the van is, of course, Martin van der Rømer for Simpact in 7th, and Robin Neville for Flemish Sim Sports in 8th, and Seb Heber for SRW Esports in 9th place. And then we've had a bit of a moment there, I think, for Jordan McClone, and a pass as well here as Paul Gosling has gotten past the crashing Jordan McClone. That makes sense to me. And Jordan McClone has had no real luck with his 911 today, and it seems the damage he picked up earlier isn't making it any easier as well. Porsche Sport says that his crew chief, and that is of course the app crew chief, or is that the actual human Porsche Sport crew chief talking in the braking zones? Maybe he's like Valtteri Bottas, he wants minimal talking, and how he passes Sam Bentham on the outside as well, Jack. Brilliant stuff there as they cross the line to begin lap 14 of the race here with 22 minutes in, and certainly we haven't been in any need of any more action so far. It's been brilliant.
It really has. Lots to look at up and down the order, mainly in the mid-pack. I add, though, Ewan Marshall there in 6th, trying to get past Pim Bao. Carl Sharkey slowly catching up with Seb Herberay in front for Simracersworld Esports. Runs slightly wide, though, washes out towards the outside of the circuit, and a little bit of lost time here and there can really add up on the run up to the International Horseshoe. Any locking up? Yep, I did expect to see that. Lots of locking up and lots of rubber will be laid down over the race. A very easy corner to lock up. It is fairly flat, but it almost drags you in before you want it, and it's so easy just to lock that inside front. Looking back from Pim Bao, Ewan Marshall and Martin van der Eyck in hot pursuit, but they can't slow each other down too much because you can see in the background Robin de Ville desperate trying to catch up with them as well.
Yeah, indeed, and that's what we've seen all race here is as soon as people start really battling out, they get company when people come up from behind, wanting a piece of the pie as well, and that's certainly not it's not what you actually want when you try to pass someone to try to get away. The thing is, these drivers seem to be so closely matched, especially here in the midfield, that whenever someone makes a pass, they don't necessarily have the pace to break away from the car. And with these long straights here at Daytona, they often just find themselves with their opposition right on their tails in the slipstream, and a place like this really hard to defend. It seems to me, Jack, that Martin van Rooijbeek, I think he's losing out somehow there on the straight line speed. He's not as fast as the cars up ahead there, Pim Bao or Ewan Marshall indeed. Although he seems to be on a good pace though. He's a couple of tenths up on the drivers in front on that lap. So, I don't know why. It could also be a question just about setup, and that he's running a setup with a little bit more downforce that enables him to go quicker through the middle sector, and then just to lose out on a bit of time there on the back straight. I'm not quite sure about that, but this is indeed where the battles are happening at the moment here, because Ryan Parkins is now pulling away yet again from Sam Bentham, or as I say, pulling away. They're separated by just about a second. And up ahead, it's now 8 seconds for the lone leader, Johnny Verhoef, in the Manatee BMW. And he is doing a rather brilliant job as we go on board here up into 6th gear on the banking. And a rare occasion of seeing a Martin Spec GT on a bank track anywhere. I think, if I'm not completely mistaken, Jack, I think this is pretty much the only place in the world where this happens.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I know you've got the smaller circuits like Pocono and Charlotte have all got their almost roval circuits, much like Daytona, but Daytona is definitely one of the more unique ones. David Fuller under pressure here from Matthias Temet. Yeah, decides to lift off a little early just to make sure there isn't any conflict on the way up through the bus stop, and I think that is just clever driving, because he knows if he just lifts off that little bit early, he's got more time to think about what he's doing on the way up to the bus stop, and he will have the draft assistance. Look at this, Ewan Marshall alongside Pim Bao on the run through sector 1 up towards the International Horseshoe. I think for the moment Pim Bao is safe. Ewan Marshall looks round the outside and decides nothing is going to come of that. I think David Fuller and Paul Gosling are still battling away on their run up towards the line, so those two getting ever closer through turn 1. Still looking back from Pim Bao, you can see how close Ewan Marshall is, and you can just tell by the body language of the car how desperate he is trying to get past. Back to this battle though, Paul Gosling still there chasing down David Fuller. This is how close they got on the run up towards turn 1, Hasse.
Yeah, he actually got past there, David Fuller, for Quantum. It's one Quantum car on another. But for some reason, Mr. David Fuller's livery is not showing. But they're actually supposed to be like, these two cars. And speaking of the Quantum livery, it's one I really enjoy looking at. And it's just the contrast. And the black, very much pink. Purple, pink. Pinkle? I don't know what to call it. But it's good looking indeed. It used to be yellow, now it's pink, and We enjoy it all the same. Joop de Ligt is here with us tonight, as well as Anthony Pram van Outen, looking for a setup for tomorrow's race. Perhaps some of the Porsche drivers after the race will be helpful with that. Perhaps not. That depends if they've paid for it. Because I think if they have, they won't even be able to. More or less under, shall we say, contractual obligations. Sam Baxter, welcome to you as well. And, of course, Porsche Sport. It's always a pleasure. Here's Ewan Marshall. He is still battling along with Pim Bao, who's gained a heckload of positions. He's up into 5th place there as well. Martin van Rooijk's done well. Carl Sharkey, or Caravan Carl, as they call him. He does what I mentioned earlier and goes a little wider there on the exit of that second infield hairpin. He's currently 10th, trying to chase down Seb Hebra up ahead. We saw a big lock-up as well. This is the track where some of the braking zones indeed are very tricky. Here's Seb Hebra, and he's been very steady as well so far, as we're coming close to the 30 minutes mark here, Jack. And with that, the first round of pit stops.
Yeah, this is where a lot of the battles are settled, or some new battles are developed. Pim Bao still with Ewan Marshall following suit, and the Quantum cars, like you say, glued together as always. And we've got to remember that they did used to run their Grello livery, as they used to call it, with the green and yellow flashes replacing the pink. But the pink, as of Suzuka, was painted onto the car to celebrate David Fuller's baby. He's just had a beautiful baby girl with his wife Sam. So once again, although it's belated, congratulations once again, and I'm sure the team will continue to run the livery as the season wears on. And I've got to say, I honestly think it's a little more eye-catching, and I maybe slightly prefer it to their usual Grello livery. If they could get the Grello livery on one and the pink on the other, it would just be insane. It'd make for some very nice shots for their social media as well. But back to the racing, Ewan Marshall still chasing down Pim Bao, and then a little further away in the background, we've still got Seb Herber and Carl Sharkey battling away. But we're at that point in the race just before the pit window opens. Everybody's started to pull out a nice bit of breathing room. Then they go into the pit lane, get all the fuel they need for the next stint, and then as soon as they come out of the pit lane, they found either a new playmate or they're back glued together again.
I was just about to say, this is a script we seem to have seen before, with the race kind of settling down just before the first round of pit stops, and that usually throws a little bit of stuff around, and I think we're going to see new battles develop over the course of this race as well. We're just gonna see. So of course there might be a couple of drivers just waiting to get the opportunity to use their fast repair to get their car in a better place. No, John Tusting telling us that Quantum indeed have a new livery again now. And we'll be looking forward to seeing that one in action once we get a paint pack update. I'll go tell the big boss, Ian here at SRW, that might be needed to get that running and get it showing as we'd like to have here. And speaking of pit stop rounds, here they come, Jack.
Yeah, Ewan Marshall, the first into the pit lane, followed by Martin van den Hooijk, then Robin DeVille, Seb Herber and Carl Sharkey, all coming into the pit lane this time by. So does Jordan McClone. What does David Fuller do? Is he peeling off into the pit lane this time? No, it looks like he's continuing on, as well as his Quantum teammate Paul Gosling, Matthias Temme following him through, and Neil Cooper, all coming round to continue on. Now it's the race out of the pit lane, led by Ewan Marshall, then Martin van den Hooijk. So I think everybody's staying pretty much as they are. Robin DeVille leaving the pit lane as we speak. Seb Herber is still stationary in his pit box. As soon as he gets everything required, he'll grab a gear and go, just like that. That gap to Carl Sharkey has come out maybe very slightly. Still just about over a second. Back up to where the action is. Look at these Fury Simsport cars. One leading the other. It's Matthias Temme leading Neil Cooper. Up the road, though, we've got the two Quantum cars of David Fuller and Paul Gosling. So teammates glued together. The leaders in the pit lane, Johnny Verhoeven.
Yeah, indeed, Verhoeven just doing that extra lap. He's been able to do 32 minutes of driving here, and that's gonna be a nice bit of an extra cushion to have for him come the final bits of the race, because it is, of course, an advantage trying to make that final stint as short as possible. Ryan Parkins coming in here as well, so the top 5 actually, all taking that extra lap as we see them all peeling off and dropping in here. That seems to be a bit of a late braking maneuver there for Pimpao, and I'm afraid we've had another problem here for Jordan McClone.
Yeah, let's see. Ooh, just grazed the wall. Rotates the car through 90 degrees. Very little room to manoeuvre. Just taps the wall. Uses it as a bit of a guide. I was expecting him to carry on forward there. Taps the wall once again. Has he got it stuck? No. Finally grabs the gear that he wants and gets going once again, but not ideal for himself after compromising, obviously, his lap going into the pit lane. Now look at this. Neil Cooper still continues on. He's been into the pit lane once. Is he going to beat Pimpao out of the pit lane? He will indeed. So Neil Cooper back up to 5th position. Pimpao exiting the pit lane now. I think Ewan Marshall might have pipped him to the post as well. Martin van der Eeuwik, it will be close, but I don't think he'll get past Pimpao. So a few changes of position. There's Robin Deville in 9th position now. Pimpao still there in 7th. Martin van der Eeuwik up 2 positions. Carl Sharkey passing the pit lane now as well. Martin van der Eeuwik pitching the car in towards the international horseshoe, and boots the loud pedal on the run up towards the kink. Neil Cooper hard on the brakes. Any locking up? No. Nice to see the Porsche has benefited from the most recent updates. Harder to lock the car up. You could hear the traction control just kicking in there on the exit of the second international horseshoe. Lots of drivers struggling with the pit exit today, Hasse. It's
a tricky one indeed. It's very, very narrow, and it's very easy to get it wrong. To be fair on him, I have done it myself on an occasion or two, albeit just in practice. Here's Matthias Temme, and was that
appropriate?
No, let's please shut the drivers up. No need that bleeding in here. Anyway, Matthias Temme getting on right on the tail of Paul Gosling there for Quantum, and they are closer than close. And what nationality is Van Røwijk? He is indeed Dutch, and there he is. Martin van Røwijk, the Simpac driver from the Netherlands. And here is Ewan Marshall. He is in 6th position at the moment. He's gone up, what, 7 places? Or so? Or did he start 6th, Jack? Now I'm a little bit...
He started 6th, I believe. I think
yeah.
It's just the timing, deciding to play silly buggers.
Yes. Yes, indeed it is, because, yeah. I get it. But silly buggers, it's a good thing to play anyways. Paul Gosling there, the number 14, no, the number 41 card is in 14th place. As you said before, except for these couple of battles here, Ewan Marshall, Pimpao, sort of closer. Is that Ewan Marshall and Neil Cooper actually? A little bit at a loss there, but get the BMW of Paul Gosling edging ever closer there, as they have to be careful with that inside grass. We've seen it before. It seems a little bit unsettled there for both of them as they go through turn 1. Here's Ewan Marshall. And I think if we take a look back, there is the G-Drive BMW of Pimpao, who's on the hunt. On the chase, indeed. And up ahead, someone whose chips kept on gaining ever since the green flag was dropped is the green car, indeed, of Johnny Verhoeven. The Manatee machine machining away and machining out a lead as well. That seems... I don't want to say that it's an infallible lead, but it's certainly a strong position to be in, given that I don't think Johnny Verhoeven really needs to push too hard in order to take it. Here is, though, Pimpao closing in this time, Jack, on Ewan Marshall.
He is indeed up towards turn 1, hard on the brakes. It seems like Pimpao has got one of the most stable cars out on the circuit at the moment. Seen very few lockups and half spins from himself. Still in 7th position where he started. The top 7 all where they qualified. Still Johnny Verhoeven up at the front with Ryan Parkins following. Sam Bentham 3rd, Bud Boland 4th, Neil Cooper in 5th. Looking back from Ewan Marshall in 6th, at Pimpao in 7th. So for the first time in a long, long while, G-Drive Exemia are not even in the top 5, and I think that's just because we don't have the usual offenders of Martin van Loosnoord and Bram van Putten. But Pimbau still flying the flag high for G-Drive. Ewan Marshall, he's got his work cut out for him. No back to this battle though. Paul Gosling chasing down Matthias Temmet. I think these two might have changed for position on the run up towards turn 1, Hasse.
If so, we shall most certainly have another look at it here and just see how it came to be for Matthias Temmet. Actually, just looking back, wasn't another? Yeah, relatively undramatic there into the bus stop. Gets it done early enough, and that's often the problem as well. If you go, oh, and as we come back, Matthias Temmet's got around, and all by himself, all on his own. Another Porsche loses the rear end. There seems to have the brake bias very far back, and that does make sense indeed, because you want to try and stop the car from locking up on the front as well. But what you see then is the car just over-rotating on corner entrance there. It wasn't the horseshoe, but it was the second hairpin. And that was indeed very bad luck, Matthias Temmet, just as he had gotten past. And another driver, by the way, who probably would have enjoyed his pit stop and the ability to get that fast repair in is Jordan McClone. And the other drivers who picked up damage early days as well. Of course, we did also see a couple of incidents that were too bad to really make any sense of carrying on. Good bit of cheering there for Johnny Verhoef in chat. That's always nice to see here. Martin van Rømer, look at this Jack. He's really now picking up company from Robin de Ville.
He is indeed. These two within 0.4 of a second. Robin de Ville very much there and letting his intentions be known. Hasn't taken his one fast repair, which he does have available to him. You can still see the front end of that Flemish Simsports BMW with the damage. Jordan McClone has gone off the road multiple times. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's clearly has picked up a slight incident for himself. He has peeled off into the pit lane. Whether he's returned to the pits or not, a big lock up into the International Horseshoe off the road there. Does he go off again? Maybe he's just decided to pack up and go home. Returns to the pit lane, and I fear that will be him out of the race, back aboard with Martin van Rømer. There you can see Robin de Ville in the background. We'll get back to live pictures very, very shortly for you. But the Simpact cars, one down, one still running, but he is under pressure here. Robin de Ville on the outside on the run up towards turn 1. Robin de Ville will be able to carry the momentum around the outside. Harder on the brakes, very close, almost door-to-door contact, but somehow Martin van Rømer proceeds to defend that position, remains in 8th position. Robin de Ville desperate trying to get the position off him. Let's see what happens on the run up towards the International Horseshoe. I think those two got very, very close there. Let's see what happened. Robin de Ville round the outside.
I'm just going to go back quickly, Jack. I'm sorry, but just as you were saying, they're still too close. We're just going to have a look at the replay in a short moment because the action still just a little too hot to go away from. As Martin van Rømer, look at it, Jack. He's really finding the rear end, just like teammate Jordan McClone. Those slow corners, that Porsche seems to want to over-rotate.
It does indeed, with it being rear-engined. I think it is very much a handful compared to the front-engined BMW. Well, I believe it's front-engined anyway. But the Flemish Simsport number 79 of Robin de Ville, catching underneath the rear wing, the half of the race gone rear wing, I might add, Hasse. But here we go, Martin van Rømer on the inside on the run up towards the bus stop. Let's see what happens. We'll have to pick up a TV camera. Robin de Ville around the outside, both of them almost side by side, a slight overlap, but Robin de Ville forces his way in front, up into 8th position for himself, gets the better run of the two, but Martin van Rømer, having only just lost the position, he will have the draft assistance, and look at him, he's already gaining on the run up towards turn 1, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed. That just might be the damage there on Robin de Ville's car that makes it all the more easy for Martin van Rømer to get back on level terms, but the Porsche's dragging his way on the outside, still a little bit over speed for Martin, but it's going to be enough here as they cross the line side by side, almost making contact there into turn 1. They go still side by side, but there's no way to go around the outside there. Martin van Rømer now looking for the cutback, but is it going to be? Nope. And Flemish Simsports, Robin de Ville there, he keeps the position from the Dutchman behind in the Rainbow Porsche. as it's been dubbed on many occasions, I think. Oh, he goes a little wide on the exit there, might open the door for Van Rømer, who seems to have a very good run. And he gets shown the inside. And the question if it's gonna be enough there, man. Was this the absolute center slide lock up and a change of position yet again. And this is really heating up because these two drivers, Jack, they're going at it absolutely hammer and tongs. And I'm just gonna go back and see if we can catch out that overtake from before. And that's of course from a lap before here, and he goes to the outside. And there was just a situation, if I'm not completely mistaken, where they almost touched there on the inside as well. That's closer than close, where they managed to keep it going. Now in the bust up, Jack, and they're still going at it.
They are not giving each other any room to breathe. Robin Neville, he's had a taste of 8th position and he's hungry to get it once again. Another incident from Matthias Temiafer on the run up towards turn 1, much like Ryan Parkins. Hits the grass. Does he avoid the pit exit? No, straight into the tyre stack, protecting the wall. Hopefully that has minimised the damage. Hopefully he continues on. Currently in 14th position. Good points for himself if he remains where he is. But Boland in 4th position, under pressure from Neil Cooper there in 5th. Those Fury Simsport cars, they really do look amazing as we're heading towards the halfway point in this race, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, and it's Porsche Sport. Indeed it is. Neil Cooper has made such a compact compact comeback, you could say. It's happened in a very short space in frame of time. I mean, and it's ever so impressive because he picked up quite a bit of damage there after a few unlucky incidents early in the race. He's really found his stride yet again now. He's put that fast repair to good use. He's absolutely flying along. He's gained 2-3 positions over the last, 15 minutes, not even, of racing after that last round of pit stops. And he's now challenging Bud Boland for 4th place. And collectively around 13 seconds behind on Sam Bentham. So while podium positions are a little far ahead at the moment, they're not completely out of reach. I see the Murray references already flying in chat. That's beautiful indeed. I wonder maybe we'll see Murray's here on SRW as well. Or actually, I know, we do have a bit of a Murray as well here. We go on board with Martin van Rømer. I'll show you something. There he is. And that brings us to a quote that we have been over time and time again here, Jack. I think I've mentioned it many times, but to finish first you must finish. And that is very true indeed. And it goes for, well, it goes for everyone, but it's a bit of, I mean, to finish third, first you must finish as well, I mean. As I think Jack might have lost himself in the background, or maybe he's just enjoying a little bit of a refreshment. There we go. Yeah, one can only hold it back for so long, guys. As we are indeed on the halfway marker here, and Neil Cooper goes to the outside here in the bus stop. That becomes the inside for the second part if he can keep it. But thinks twice of it and tries to line it up for the next part of it. But Boland, the Manxman up ahead, certainly doing front. Oh, that's a good one indeed. That's a good one indeed. Oh, and now yet again, of course, the good one I'm referencing to is, of course, the good old, I cannot believe what's happening visually in front of my eyes. It's fantastic stuff. But we can throw in a bit of a, let's try to stay away from the Murrayisms themselves, but a bit of an ode here and there. as Neil Cooper is harrying the rear end of Bud Boland. You can see the speed difference at the moment. I'm just about fine, lads. For now. Let's see at the end of the race. I might have lost all my hair and grown about 50 years older. If that'll even do it, that's nowhere near enough. Say, what will that make? What?
You're not helping
60,
yourself here,
60, 70, yeah, I don't know. Murray Walker is almost 100 years old. Isn't he like 98 or something?
Yeah, his birthday was just a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, what a legend indeed. Anyways, look at this battle, Jack. Bud Boland, Neil Cooper. Oh, he's going to be Marshall to the outside. And oh, if I were in the car for Neil Cooper there, if I was in that machine, I'd be a little fuming over Bud Boland's slight swerving there, also knowing that that Porsche is going to come right back at him behind. Ewan Marshall is getting company as well from Pimpao in the G-Drive BMW. Oh, and up ahead, this might be it. Look at this. Look at this. Bud Boland's on the outside. And he's going to be... Oh, that's a bit of a squeeze. Almost Rosberg. He goes way wide onto the run up there. And if he was unhappy before Neil Cooper, he'll certainly be it this time around. He just wants to get past here. This time around, he sends it. It's Cooper. And he's passed on Sam. I'm sorry. Of course, that's not Sam Bentham. That is, of course, Bud Boland. Long battle. Big one there indeed. As they went back and forth on a number of occasions. And let's have another look, Jack. Talk us through it here.
Yeah, so you can see Neil Cooper on the inside trying to defend, or Neil Cooper on the outside trying to attack, pardon me, from Bud Boland. Has a little look and decides the position isn't going to be made there. Gets very, very close to that outside wall. Quite daunting when you get to it, and then back round another half a lap. On the run up towards the line, you can see them getting closer and closer together. And look at this, Neil Cooper around the outside decides that their position isn't on. Maybe gets slightly scared at how close that BMW is, kicks the cones into the air. And Neil Cooper decides that, you know what, we've had our fun of games now. I'm going to throw it up the inside. And here we go on the run up towards the International Horseshoe. Late on the brakes, a bit of a lock up on the inside. Will maybe slightly hurt that inside right front. However, it is a position made for the moment, though, because Bud Boland, as well, I say for the moment, he's dropped back quite the margin. 1.8 seconds now, I fear. There may have been a slight mistake in that Hasse. Bud Boland has been off the road.
There has indeed, and we're going to have a look at it. It's at the bus stop. Oh, just carries too much speed into it. And it's a small one indeed. It's just going to be a bit of an off track, a bit of botanizing, if you will, for Bud Boland. Greenkeeper of Daytona. But it could have been a lot worse there if you begin to get a slide on in that situation that quickly develops into traumatic action deeds. Oh, and Neil Cooper, by the way, he's in the pits here already.
Yeah, not sure what's happened here, because I don't believe he will be able to get to the end of the race with the current fueling strategy. Whether he pitted early to get that damage repaired in the first stint, and therefore has to pit early in the second one, he won't be able to get to the end. 40 minutes of the race to go, so he will have to pit at least one more time. And I think that has just put pay to all of his hard work behind the wheel of that Fury Simsport Porsche, chasing down now another Porsche of Kyle Sharkey for Strasser Porsche Sport. Obviously Porsche Sport being the title sponsor of the series, so a massive thank you to themselves for all the support they provide, as well as Dynamic Simulators, Strasser and Abruzzi Racewear alongside. But back to this battle, Pimbao now chasing down Ewan Marshall in another one of the Porsches. Everywhere we look today, it's BMW followed by Porsche, or the other way around. Yeah,
it's really a bit of a German rivalry here in the States for today, as it's very, very true. Ewan Marshall and Pimbao, they've been going on for ages as well. And it's only really now that they've really come back together, actually, once I think about it. They've been away, they've been separated by a bit. And now they're actually back at it yet again, Jack, with lap times that are more than similar, separated by, well, not even tenths, hundredths of a second between them there on the last lap. And that also gives a very good bit of reasoning as to why they are as close as they are at the moment here. But it does seem to be advantage Pim Bao and the straight line speed of the BMW. And they are the only cars on track. I just read your message chat there, or message in chat, Jack. That was absolutely brilliant indeed.
Yeah, everywhere we look, there's a Porsche and a BMW. Yep, Jack, that's because they're the only cars still out on the road. We had Jack Ashton retire and Ryan Walker retire at the start of the race, or in the early stages. Those being the sole Ford and Ferrari. Those two obviously having a historic history, funnily enough, battling away in the various places of motorsport. This battle, though, still raging away. Ewan Marshall in 5th position for Team 11, under pressure from Pim Bao. You can see he's gaining already. Half a tenth taken out. There's another tenth. There's another half. Getting very, very close behind the wheel of that BMW. Now within 1/10 of a second. Tucked underneath the rear wing. Dives out to the outside. We know Pim Bao has got the confidence to do it. Let's see what he can manage on the brakes. He won't even need to worry about the brakes on the run up towards turn 1. There we go. Jumps on the anchors, holds the inside line, defends the position, runs the car out wide, opens the corner up, grabs the apex, and there you go. Position made, textbook overtake from himself. Ewan Marshall now back into 6th position.
Yeah, indeed, Pim Bao doing it the easy way around there, or not that the outside usually is, but when it's a straight bit of the track, that's when it's easy overtaking, and that's how you want to do it. Also because it costs you so much less time. And this way around, they're only 4.5 seconds down on Bart Boland, now in cam here for Meraki Racing, who was, let's say, very engaged before with Neil Cooper, who himself, after that early pit stop, and I'm saying early because after 50 minutes of racing, still 40 minutes left when he went in, he's not going to be able to make it to the line. And as you said, Jack, a very good point indeed. It's undone all that hard work, because it was some very hard work being put in. Let's be honest and frank about it. He was really battling hard there with Bud Boland. He did get past. It cost them both quite a bit of time, I suppose, and I think Bud Boland's going to be a little unhappy with it in the end. But that's how racing is, and you don't go out there just to do your Sunday cruise, I suppose, as well. So they are they are entitled to race, and they should, not only for the sake of their own entertainment, but for ours as well. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. But it's been a good race so far, and we've been treated to some excellent battles. This one, at least to my eyes, seems to be going absolutely nowhere. Although it is saying a lot to me that Ewan Marshall, even in the slipstream of Pim Bao's car, isn't really able to pick up too much time on him, Jack.
No, it looks like he's struggling to stay in touch with Pim Bao. This introduces, obviously, the chance of overdriving, not what Ewan Marshall would want at this time. I think Carl Sharkey has been off for a little off-track excursion as well. Another Porsche having a slight mistake into the second international horseshoe, locks the inside. There you go, onto the grass, and just about, boots the throttle to get the rear end around, holds the brakes, makes sure he doesn't get in anyone's way. Neil Cooper goes screaming by. That flat six engine sounds always amazing in the 911 RSI. Ewan Marshall still there in 6th position. He will have the draft assistance on the run up towards the bus stop, but something I can already tell from the race so far, Hasse, is the BMW massively benefits more than the Porsche in the draft, because you can see how much Pim Bao gained over the space of one length of the banking. And look at this, Ewan Marshall, he's in the draft, but he's not really gaining as much as Pim Bao did on the lap prior.
Yeah, there's nowhere near as much gain there for Ewan Marshall, and it does seem to be the problem for the 911s. Makes it all the more impressive that Ryan Parkins is lapping at the pace he is lapping at the moment, because he's comfortably putting Sam Bentham behind him he's up to actually a gap of that's so 15 seconds or so. Was it just 3.5 actually, if I'm not, I might be mistaken. It's actually not that far actually. Oh, someone's out there on the outside. I think that's Matthias Temme letting Ryan Parkinson through. I'm very sorry, because it actually only is 3.5 seconds, but given the top, it's been something we've seen for quite some time, The BMW M8 being very strong on top speed. The Ferrari being up there as well. And under certain BOPs, we've actually seen the Ford GT up there running nicely on the top speed. The Porsche 911 has had seasons where it's been sort of competitive, even on the fast tracks. But when it's been so, it's been massively overpowering on everywhere else. And that's actually a very good question, Wake. Where's Martin van Rooijbeek? It's the Van the man, and he's here in 7th place at the moment. And as we go to him, he immediately feels the pressure and locks up his right front there. Still battling Robin DeVille. They've been going at it for quite some time as well. I was a little surprised, Jack, to see that Robin DeVille didn't repair his front at the first pit stop. But it sort of also makes sense to try and save the fast repair to make sure that you have it up your sleeve, if so you need it, at the second.
Yeah, I think that was the card he was playing, to be fair, with his first pit stop being only half an hour into the race and still an hour of the race to go at the time. I think saving the fast repair for a later date is probably best. Going into the second pit stop, though, I would think he would take that fast repair, so then he's maybe got a bit more pace behind the wheel of that BMW going into the final stint. Ewan Marshall, look at this, he's gaining little by little, but once again, it's just almost cementing the fact that the BMW massively differs to the Porsche with how much draft affects it, and I still think that the BMW is much stronger in the draft and gains a lot more out of it. Pimbau solidifying his 5th position for the moment, though, still with a pit stop to be made. I think we've got a very close battle a little further down the order for 11th respectively. David Fuller putting the pressure on Carl Sharkey behind the wheel of that Strasser Porsche Sport 911 RSR, number 113, currently in 11th position. How long that lasts, though, I don't know, because you can see the BMW, look how much it gains just in the draft range. Lifts off nice and early. I think David Fuller is, whether at this point he's doing it just to try and keep in the position he is, maybe trying to save a bit of fuel, I'm not sure, but David Fuller more than comfortable sitting behind the Strasser Porsche Sport 911.
Yeah, oh, and that cut, I think, yeah. He wasn't so comfortable after all for that moment, at least. That was very close there as Carl Sharkey took a late apex and David Fuller tried a little bit of a different approach there. They almost got tangled into one another at the entrance of turn 1 there. And it's I mentioned it before, it is a tricky braking zone, and they almost got it very wrong indeed. But I think indeed David Fuller just trying to save that fuel that'll make him able to just pass Carl Sharkey on the next pit stop. It is an easier way to do it here, as we're just over an hour into the race now, 30 minutes to go, and pit windows pretty much open for that final pit stop, as Pimbau and Ewan Marshall yet again marshalling one another around here, still separated by no more than half a second. And what we're seeing is, even though the BMW is quite a lot stronger there on the straight, the Porsche often really gaining here in the twisty infield, and as such we're not seeing Ewan Marshall being dropped, Jack, because through there, look at that, that's almost 2/10 gained in the International Horseshoe alone. So impressive stuff that the Porsche is doing so much better at the infield, but it does make it hard to overtake, and it makes it hard to race. Look at this here now, David Fuller, he can't wait, he's getting a little impatient with it, and now he's on the outside of Carl Sharkey. But he's thinking better of it, and I understand that, because he wasn't able to just get past into the corner, and then the outside isn't really the place to be.
Now we are hearing that that battle could also be affected by Dave's setup. He hasn't had chance to modify the setup to suit the very fast flowing corners here at Daytona, so he is topping out on the straight. So maybe he's just trying to save the engine and try and minimize any damage caused. Obviously, with him having a newborn, finding time is few and far between, but he is still out on the road and doing a sterling job. Looking back though from Pimbau, Ewan Marshall still within half a second, 3/10 between the pair of them, but you can see, look, he's in the draft range and he's not even gained a hundredth of a second. In fact, I honestly think Pimbau is pulling away.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mentioned before. It's quite extreme to see this, and I'm thinking, is there just a little bit of damage there on Ewan Marshall's car that's causing this to him? By the way, That's commitment for you there from David Fuller to the team, and to sim racing as a thing, to actually be racing with a newborn there. Would be the biggest thing that can happen to anyone in life, I guess. It's or one of the biggest things, at least on a personal level. Pimbao, look at this here. It gets so close through the infield and just isn't really able to do anything about it once they get onto the straight. And it must be a very frustrating position to be in there, as we also have a round of pitters, you could say, in this round. Robin DeVille, Seb Heberer, Martin van Røvik, and Carl Sharkey all pitting in a little early this time round. Let's go back with this battle though, as Pimbao, as you can see, Jack, you're absolutely right on what you said on the lap before this one. He is actually gaining from the car that's right there in the slipstream. That's absolutely impressive.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how he's managing it. I saw a lot of grass kicked up by one of the cars there. Whether that has picked either one of them up a slowdown, I'm not 100% sure. And we know a slowdown can massively hurt your car around here. But Pimbao still in 5th position, and the gap is pretty much staying the same. It seems like the Porsche is much quicker through the twiddly bits, but the BMW is quicker where it matters on the run up to the line. Martin van Rooyen almost hitting the grass, trying to nail the pit exit this time by. There you go, weaves it in between the wall and the grass, avoids those very nasty sausage curbs. I know in testing for Daytona 24 Hour, if you hit one of them, it can in fact blow up your engine there and then, and that's race over pretty much. This is Ewan Marshall finding his pit box, jumps on the brakes and parks it for the team to get to work for the final pit stop for himself. Going into the final stint, Pimbao continuing on for one more lap. I'm expecting Johnny Verhoeven to peel into the pit lane this time by, along with Ryan Parkins, Sam Bentham, Bod Boland, and the man we're looking at the moment, Pimbao, Ewan Marshall, the only driver to pull into the pit lane this time by. Exiting the pit lane very shortly, we should also possibly expect another pit stop from Neil Cooper. This will be his 3rd pit stop, so I don't believe he'll be able to get to the end. About 10 minutes away from the end, keep an eye on himself. But this race is slowly starting to show its face, and everybody will start to get an idea of how they'll finish. The leaders into the pit lane once again, Hasse.
Yeah, for the final time, Johnny Verhoeven, or well, he'll be hoping that it's for the final time, because if it's not, it means something will have gone terribly wrong for Johnny Verhoeven. And of course, we're hoping that it won't be, but chances are, with this level of consistency that he's been showing, the #1 man here in the 93 car has been ever so strong. And his top running contenders are all pitting in on this lap. And I'll be watching back to see just what kind of a gap Ryan Parkins is packing down to Sam Bentham. Because look at that, it's actually not too far. It was sitting steady at around 3.5 seconds, but with the Porsche having a very good fuel economy, oh, that's Bentham. He might actually, is he? It seems to be within.
Yeah, just about. I was thinking exactly the same. He's almost in the pit box behind the number 89 pit box, which is he is in his pit lane, his pit box just about. But he was very far back, and I do agree with what Porsche Sport is saying. It looks like, yes, it has. The safety car has managed to find his way into the wall. I think the safety car needs a pit himself. He's had an incident.
The danger car, it is here at Daytona. Not much safety about that, to be fair. And Pimbao exits. Let's see, that's going to be interesting. Just where he pops out. Look at this. Ewan Marshall's going to be on the outside. There is Pimbao, and he's going to be out ahead, I'm quite sure. Even though he's a little slower there. No, he is going to be ahead of Ewan Marshall, and that was exactly what he was hoping for. To stay ahead of the Porsche. And with a bit of an increase in the gap, there is Neil Cooper to try and get involved as well. But knowing what we know, and what he must know as well himself, that he most probably, unless he's done hell of a load of fuel saving here, which I really seem to be a possibility in the end. I think it's just too much to ask of him. No, 6 minutes of running, it'll be what, 3 laps he'll have to save or so. He might find himself in a tight situation with that indeed. Paul Gosling and Matthias Temes in the pit as well, and Martin van Rooyen has lost a lot of time, Jack, and I'm just wondering why.
Yeah, not 100% sure. I think he might have either had a bit of an issue in the pit lane for the second time. Let's have a look. Yes, he spent lots more time in the pit lane than anybody else. On average, people just in their pit box, in the painted areas, they're spending around about 20 seconds. Martin Rømer spent 1 minute in his pit box, so a massive issue for himself. Neil Cooper, look at this on the inside of Ewan Marshall. And on the brakes, there you go. Neil Cooper up the inside, textbook overtake, very clean, but it looks like Ewan Marshall is desperate to get back by as we go back live with them on the run up towards turn 1. Ewan Marshall looks to the outside, doesn't decide to sell him the dummy. Still looking now, he looks maybe slightly more confident on the brakes. Through turn 1, Neil Cooper still the lead party, but Ewan Marshall in hot pursuit, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, and the more they choose to battle it out here, it's just going to play into the hands of Pim Bao up ahead, because he's in... well, he's got the advantage on where you want it, more or less, because there are certain few advantages to having the straight line speed as compared to having the car that's strong through the corners. At least on a track like this, first of all, it makes overtaking very, very hard to be in a slower car on the straights, and you also find yourself having to really fight to get the most out of the car, where if you have a car that's just a little faster in the straights, you can allow yourself to be a little more relaxed through the infield here, and over time, well, that might conserve the tires, it might conserve your ability to keep focus and thus be more consistent, and it often shows out to be a little bit safer as well here. Ewan Marshall now down in 7th place, but I think, Jack, that he knows what we know as well, that Neil Cooper did pit very early when he came in last time around. He was absolutely flying around Neil Cooper, but given that he's most probably going to be pitting in again, I think Ewan Marshall wasn't too busy fighting him.
Yeah, I think, like you say, it is playing in the back of his mind. There's no way that he will be able to get to the end unless he has done a lot of fuel saving, but I can't see that happening, bearing in mind he's charging towards the top 5 now after multiple incidents. It's been a very, very good drive from himself. It will be a shame to see what happens, see the inevitable play out, but now he's gaining on Pim Bao as well and dragging Ewan Marshall with him. So although for the moment it's looking like Neil Cooper won't be able to get to the end of the race, and these aren't in theory battles for end position, he is helping Ewan Marshall catch on the G-Drive BMW of Pim Bao, but that won't help him though. Very deep into the second international horseshoe. Now Ewan Marshall back within striking distance. But yeah, like I was saying, Ewan Marshall getting ever closer to Pim Bao, so Neil Cooper almost affecting everybody else's race results on his way back up through the order.
It's the second time he finds himself here chasing down Pim Bao and also actually Bud Boland up ahead, but it's so interesting to see that Bud Boland, who he was actually battling quite closely there before, he's lost so much time on being in traffic, having to pass up through the field, being on what seems to be a bit of a slightly skewered pit strategy, and he really he must be frustrated with it, because he's had the pace to be up there on the podium without a doubt at all today. Neil Cooper's really been fast, and a standout drive, of course, barring Johnny Verhoeven out ahead. And let's just have a quick check-in with the race leader, just to make sure everything is as it usually is, which means it's smooth sailing. And I don't want to pull out any curses here, but it's been looking good. Let's just say that for an hour and 11 minutes here, Johnny Verhoeven still in the lead. It's been lights to, well, 42 laps in the race here. We've got just under 20 minutes of racing left on the clock. And indeed, Jack, the Porsches are indeed gaining here. So for Ewan Marshall, it might have been a wise decision to let Neil Cooper pass on through, just to grab a hold of his rear end and get dragged back up to Pim Bao there.
That's definitely one way to put it, Hasse, but you couldn't be more correct. Ewan Marshall definitely gaining towards Pim Bao with the help of Neil Cooper, of course. These two, the closest cars on track, separated by 0.6 of a second. And This is something we haven't seen either. Porsche versus Porsche on the draft. And it's still Neil Cooper pulling away from Ewan Marshall. So I do believe what you mentioned earlier, Hasse, is Ewan Marshall has some sort of underlying damage. Nothing on first inspection. The front bumper and aero canards, side skirts and rear wing and rear diffuser are all the little aero bits that you'd expect to see damage, all looking very straight. So maybe a bit of floor damage. He could have collected a curb at some point. Or he could all be on setup, like you mentioned. He seems very quick through the middle sector. And then as we go back towards the first sector and the third sector, he slowly starts to lose out again. Now the gap is up to 3/4 of a second. It'll be close to 8/10 of a second on the run up towards turn 1. So it seems like Ewan Marshall maybe with still with a bit of work to do on that setup. But it won't matter come the end of the race. Like you say, just under 20 minutes of the race to go. Closing down on just over 15 minutes. Riding on board with Ewan Marshall. And you can just hear that beautiful flat 6 engine in the middle of this Porsche scream its way around the Daytona circuit.
Yeah, I was also just thinking that Ewan Marshall, because you did mention the sausage curbs there earlier, and just how you can pick up a bit of engine damage from running over them, and of course you can blow your engine on one of those. But I think if you're a little more subtle and you just slightly graze them, you can even doesn't take a lot if it hits the wrong way and such. Just take the edge off the power there. Look at this. This is really, look at this. Look at this. It's coming together up ahead. And Pim Bao, he's lapping Matthias Temme, but he's lost a lot of time and Matthias Temme's been off. And might that have something to do with it? That's Bud Boland in behind. So let's just see here. Temme's going off onto the infield, onto the grass. But he's coming back on, and doesn't seem to me like it's caused too much of an issue for Pim Bao. But the fact of the matter is that the gap between Pim Bao and Neil Cooper is down to less than a second now, Jack.
Yes, getting ever closer. Those two. Look at this now. Teammate versus teammate. Neil Cooper, the car a lap ahead, gets by his teammate of Matthias Temme. Slightly deep in towards turn 1, but yeah, like you mentioned, Hasse, Pim Bao slowly getting under pressure from Neil Cooper. 1.2 seconds between the pair of them. Ewan Marshall within a second of the tail end of Neil Cooper, so this has massively played into the hands of Ewan Marshall. On first glance, obviously he's lost the position. That's not what he'd like to see, although I think maybe Matthias Temme helping his teammate along a little bit there. Side by side through the kink is definitely something you don't want to do. Ewan Marshall finally gets past Matthias Temme with a bit of time lost though, now outside of that crucial 1 second draft margin to the car ahead of Neil Cooper. But yeah, like I was saying, Ewan Marshall on first glance, not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to lose a position to Neil Cooper, but he let it play out, and it's definitely played into his hands because he's massively gained on Pim Bao, and Neil Cooper is now only 3/10 away, and the Porsche is very, very quick in the draft, Hasse.
Yeah, Neil Cooper's Porsche has no problems whatsoever gaining in the draft, so that also just forces me to believe that Ewan Marshall has kind of underlying problem, and whether that's damage, whether that's down to setup, it's really hard to say. But it seems to be a bit of a shame for him because he's on good pace, he's on a good run indeed, but he's just losing out. Look at this though, Neil Cooper's absolutely gobbling up the gap there up to Pim Bao. He's going to go on the outside, he's going to go straight past that BMW, I think, up into 5th place. But not if Pim Bao can have a say in it. But if the Dutchman just knew that Neil Cooper would most probably had to stop again, I think he would just hand over the position. Of course, that's always running the risk of Neil Cooper then all of a sudden somehow having saved the fuel, or just knowing that the car can actually do 40 minutes. Lord knows it could be. But saying that, Jack, an hour and 16 minutes into the race now, which means that if we're going by that 30 minutes a stint, which usually seems to be pretty accurate. It's been 32 to 34 minutes for this race actually, so I think it's going to be interesting actually to see just how far Neil Cooper is going to be able to get on this. His pace is really good, and it's gonna be a heartbreak to see him go into the top 5 or maybe beyond again, because he's done it once, remember, already this race, just to drop down once again because of whatever happened. He could have underfueled as well on that pit stop there as he get cut off by Pimbao. Coming in, Bram van Hoefden is going to be guessing on 54 laps in the end. And I'm in no position to sit and do my head maths right now around, so that's not going to happen. Anyway, I'm just going to go through the order. We have Johnny Verhoef still leading the race here after an hour and 17 minutes. So coming in towards the final minute, and there, as we say it, Neil Cooper breaks off. He goes into the pits. And hearts must be sinking for Fury Sim Sports here, who's had such a good run and it had such good pace into the pit. Once again, it's going to be gifts for everyone in behind. And I'm sure, Jack, we're going to see Neil Cooper for 10 minutes here at the end of the race of on an absolute charge. Make that 12, though.
Yes, he is going to be in desperate need of a few more positions, giving away that podium position in class. He was third in the gold class. Now, I fear, with the extra weight added, it might slightly change the characteristics of his driving, slightly throw him out of his rhythm. He's got BMWs either side of him, Robin Deville up the road, Sebastian Herbert just behind. So no matter what he does from here, he will have either to fend off a BMW or attack a BMW. We know that Robin Deville is very, very good on the defence. There is Neil Cooper. It looks like he's already back up onto his potential pace. Seb Herber there in 9th position. Kept his nose clean this race, which is good for Seb. It'll be a good points haul from him if he can keep it on the black stuff towards the end of the race. Now through the very bumpy run up towards the oval section of the circuit for the second time. And on towards where the bus stop is. Very, very quick left, double right, left section of the circuit. Very tricky as well. If you brake just 5 meters too late, it can have major, major consequences going into the corner. This battle's still raging away. Karl Sharkey now with Martin van Reewijk on his inside. Slightly deep went Karl Sharkey on the brakes. He might cut across the defend. Does Martin van Reewijk sell him the dummy? No, he's going to wait until he gets onto the oval section of the circuit because we know how powerful the draft is. A slight blink there for Karl Sharkey. But continuing on nonetheless, Martin van Reewijk in hot pursuit. The number 272 desperate to get past the number 133. And this is a battle for position overall, not a battle in class. Karl Sharkey, the gold driver, Martin van Reewijk, the platinum driver, trying to get up, back past. But Karl Sharkey's done a brilliant job so far this race. It's great to see him back up towards the pointy end of the order through the bus stop, nice and controlled. But there's still a long, long straight before he gets to turn 1, so no respite at all for Karl Sharkey just yet, Hasse.
Nope, not at all. And I don't think this battle is going anywhere for the final bits and bobs of this race. Martin van Reewijk's gonna try and see if he can get his nails into the top 10 perhaps, although 12 seconds up to David Fuller, and that Quantum BMW is gonna be difficult to do. Yeah, that goes for both of these cars up, Porsche Sport. Don't scratch that pretty paint. And something we see a lot, I think, Jack, when racing in the iRacing special events and such, the really long endurance races. And speaking of long endurance races, here on SRW TV, come October 31st, we'll have the Belcar, the virtual Belcar 24 hours of Zolder on display as well. So an actual 24-hour race of our own. And just you imagine if I can lose my mind in an hour and 20 minutes commentating on racing and becoming God knows how many years older, although I haven't really had the full Murray going on for me, which I guess in the end is probably a good thing. Adding to the perceived professionalism of me, saying perceived because, yeah. But I was talking about the long races, and I was talking about paint jobs and how often you see beautiful paint jobs in sim racing being scratched. Mildly put, perhaps. At the end of long races, where you just think, oh, that's a shame to see The van boy indeed, Wake. He is on a roll, and I think this time around Carl Sharkey's going to have a hard time defending it. Martin van Rømer goes towards the outside as they go towards the line. Is he going to make it? Well, he's hardly even going to make it across to the side of Carl Sharkey's car, but he does brake very late indeed. They're going to go side by side in through turn 1. And, Martin van Rømer, there's a dangerous place to be, and they almost collect one another. Van Rømer's on the grass there. He really needs to take care. And he sends it into the horseshoe, gets past. That was very dramatic, Jack.
It really was. Martin van Rømer elbowed out towards the outside of the circuit. Let's have another look. Has a look to the inside. Carl Sharkey takes the normal racing line. Martin van Rømer on the brakes. You can see him just fluctuating the brakes as he gets towards the apex, still side by side. And then both of them punch the throttle. I think Martin van Rømer just slightly earlier, and then we see as the road goes right and then left, Carl Sharkey gets very close. Maybe a bit of contact there. I think there was. This was the bit that really surprised me. Martin van Rømer, he had the confidence not just to go onto the grass to keep it straight, but also to keep his foot and set on the brakes. Look at it, jumped on the anchors, and the commitment there was second to none. Carl Sharkey locking up. Martin van Rømer, not even a hint of a lock-up. Then puts his foot to the floor, grabs a gear and gets going, and look at the gap he's already built, 0.3 of a second. Bearing in mind we've only just seen that overtake and Carl Sharkey has had draft. Martin van Rømer doing a brilliant job trying to fend off the position he's just made.
Yeah, indeed, and I am afraid also that Carl Sharkey's carrying some light bodywork damage, if nothing else, on his car that might just be impeding him ever so slightly on the straights. And the straights do matter here at Daytona, so that's a bad position to be in. You can see he, as opposed to some of the other cars, is actually able to gain, and is actually able to gain quite a bit, which leads you to believe that maybe he's not the only one suffering ever so slightly on top speed here of these two Porsches, because we did see Martin van Rømer being in the pits for a very, very long time indeed, Jack, around that second pit stop. So it could be that his Porsches picked up a bit of damage as well in that situation. And if so, this might be closer than we actually just thought a moment ago coming into the line here for these last, well, almost 6 minutes of racing. And let's just go through it. Johnny Verhoeven, it has been a flawless drive so far. Let's not say anything too early. Still 5.5 minutes left to go. But if the preceding an hour and 25 minutes and 35 or 30 or 35 seconds now has been anything to go by, it's not going to be the biggest of problems for him. It has been a phenomenal drive yet again from Johnny Verhoeven, who seems to be on a level where none of the other competitors at the moment can really touch him. We did see the Platinum G-Drive cars up there as well. Joop de Ligt, who joined in chat's not here as well today. So it's going to be what I think could even, well, there's actually going to be 2 races. So theoretically, it's still possible. Still going to be possible for Joop de Ligt to pick up the championship. Although in practice, this result today is going to make it very, very hard to wrestle Johnny Verhoeven off of the throne. And he does indeed look to be set to become the Season 7 SRW GT Pro champion if everything goes according to plan. And of course, I'm crossing my fingers trying not to get the curse out on anyone here, but you know, hardware can fail and a lot of stuff can happen that all of a sudden makes it impossible for someone to race. And I'm just saying that it's not certain, it's not sure, but he's close. He's been doing very well today. By the way, Ryan Parkins has been doing very much the same, as he's been battling Sam Bentham for the entirety of the race, more or less, and he's just been chipping away at it, Jack. It was about 3.5 seconds for quite some time. He's up that now to about 5.5 seconds, and it's been a super drive again from Ryan Parkins.
It really has been, and I've got to say I am massively on the Ryan Parkins train. He has been doing a brilliant job in every car he gets into. And like I say, I try and talk to the Porsche Sport guys as much as possible outside of commentary. And Ryan Parkins this week been hard at work behind the wheel and desperate, trying to find more time. And he's definitely showing off his potential, not just as a driver, but behind the wheel of that Strasser Porsche Sport 911.
but Bod Boland still battling away, or trying to get up to Sam Bentham. 12 seconds up the road is the Ronin Sim Sport Academy car, and Bod Boland, although he's been in a world of his own, he's done exactly what he needs to do. Currently 4th overall, so a massive haul of points, but 2nd in class as well. So a nice little result for himself and Meraki Racing. The Manxman doing a great job. Here is 5th position, Pim Bao, 3rd in class, rounding out your platinum podium for the moment in the final 2.5 minutes of the race. Riding aboard with the G-Drive Racing Exemia machine. A bit of a wobble on the exit, a bit of opposite lock, manages to get that moment collected up. But only 2.5 minutes to go. I think it's about time that we slowly start to think about our driver of the day. And for me, I'm sort of stuck because Neil Keeper, brilliant job. He's done an amazing job. 2 comeback drives, 1 after the first pit stop and 2 after the second. And I think he's on for another here. But Ryan Parkins as well, another brilliant job. Is it possible, will you let me, Hasse, to give driver of the day, or drivers of the day, to Ryan Parkins and Neil Keeper? For myself, anyway, what do you think?
Neil Cooper has been a joy to watch today. Ryan Parkins has been really, really good. But for me, I have to take it in that Johnny Verhoeven has been in a class of his own today. And with a display like that, I think he will be a little hard to get around as well when coming into it. But of course, we also like to see some overtakes. We like to see a driver that can handle himself in some paddles. But let's just say we've seen that before from Johnny Verhoeven. And I think lights to flag. Well, it's close to being a win. It's a 1.5 minutes away now. And well, it is the last lap, right?
Yeah, it is the last lap. And Johnny Verhoeven literally just crossed the line to go on to the final lap, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, I think it's hard for me to discard a performance like the one Johnny Verhoeven has put in today. But yeah, it's a hard one, and I think I'll let you all decide for yourselves to whoever you think. But indeed, for me, actually, Neil Cooper has been, I'd say, the most entertaining driver to watch, because it's really been happening around Neil tonight, and it's such a shame to see him not really up where he seems to belong on pace here at Daytona, here on track. So it would have been his rightful place to be up around the podium places, but it's going to be P8 in the end, I think, though, Neil Cooper, unless he's going to be able to pull out some kind of miracle here against Robin DeVille, Jack. The gap is, well, it's coming down rather quickly. It still, however, is around 1.5 seconds. But I think, looking at that, the car of Robin DeVille, he isn't really having any damage. He isn't really seeming to be nursing a car that's been struck. But you know what I think? I think he's having to try to save a bit of fuel here towards the end. And that might be why he's losing time. And I'm having to just think that this could be getting closer on the final lap. And as we say that, Johnny Verhoeven picks up the checkered flag at Daytona. He picks up the win. A brilliant one indeed. Lights to flag. And if ever Mika Häkkinen had an opposite, or not an opposite, but an equal, you could say, of making it look easy, which was the point I was getting to, it's been Johnny Verhoeven today. It has been smooth sailing all the way through. Ryan Parkins taking the Strasse Porsche Sport machine to 2nd place, and another podium finish for him. Absolutely beautiful drive as he crosses the line. Very well timed there with Caravan Carl, as they're gonna get a beautiful snapshot out of that there. Sam Bentham grabs 3rd, and it's going to be 4th for the Manxman, Jack, Bod Boland and Meraki Racing.
It is indeed, and I've got to say, I've just looked through the standings. With that win, Johnny Verhoeven, ladies and gentlemen, is your Simracersworld GT Pro Season 7 champion, secured here at the penultimate round at Daytona.
But don't we have... I'm sorry. I was just thinking, because we still have Silverstone. Exactly, there is the postponed race at Silverstone, so we have 2 races to go, which was the reason I was thinking that he mathematically he can still lose it, but he's going to be with a massive lead, and it's going to take quite a lot for him to throw it away, I think.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that we had to postpone Silverstone due to the recent updates. I thought Spa on November the 4th in 2 weeks' time would be the last round, but no. Please do accept my apologies. It is not the penultimate round. We still have 2 rounds to go. Spa in 2 weeks' time on November the 4th, and then we go to Silverstone to round out the season. But that was one hell of a race. Everybody battled at one point or another. Somebody's enjoying the tarmac. Oh, and it's Martin van Rooyen, your best mate, Hasse.
Yeah, he's a good lad. He's making donuts, and he's probably having a bit of a munch post-race already. Surprisingly fit man, Martin van Rooyen, for someone who likes to eat at the rate that Martin enjoys eating. So either it's a high metabolism rate for Martin, I don't know, or he's just working out hard in the gym. But the question again remains with him: is he working hard, or is he hardly working? Anyway, Jack, I just want to mention something that we completely missed in the end. Neil Cooper got it. He got Robin DeVille in the end. He got 7th place by just under 0.3 of a second. Absolutely impressive stuff. So I think, and I'm just looking down through it because I really wanted to see another take on it. I wanted to see the overtake at the end, and for some reason, I can't really seem to find it. And it's a little bit of a shame. Although I think, nope, my apologies, I was wrong. So, nope. For some reason I can't find it, and that's a bit of a shame, because I would have liked to see that photo finish. But nevertheless, that isn't to be. What is to be is that Jack Werrell is going to be ready to take you through the race results.
So round 9 of the Simracersworld GT Pro Series here at Daytona finishes as follows. Johnny Verhoef within touching distance now, within touching distance of the Season 7 Championship with G-Drive, or 2 of the G-Drive competitors and his Manatee teammate as well not attending this evening. He has extended his lead even further in the championship. He takes top honours here this evening, 37 seconds over Ryan Parkins and the number 225 Strasser Porsche Sport Machine. Sam Bentham rounds out your overall podium, 43 seconds behind for Ronin Sim Sport Academy. Bud Boland, second in class, 4th overall for Meraki Racing. Pimbao rounds out your platinum podium in 5th position for G-Drive Exemia. Ewan Marshall rounds out your gold podium for Team 11 in 6th. Neil Cooper in 7th. Robin DeVille finishes in 8th. Seb Herborough with a good result in 9th. David Fuller finishes in 10th and round out your top 10. Martin van Rooyen finishes in 11th. Carl Sharkey 12th. Paul Gosling 13th. And Matthias Temmit in 14th. And then sadly, we had 3 retirements from the race this evening. Jordan McClone in 15th. Jack Ashton in 16th. And Ryan Walker in 17th. Albeit a minimised grid, we definitely weren't short of action this evening, were we, Hasse?
No, not at all. It was a really good race that kept us on the edge of our seats, I'd say, for more than long enough, and was treated some really good racing here at Daytona, which is very often the case, as it provides for plenty of slipstreaming battles, big braking zone overtakes. You can really send it at quite a few places as well. And also something I want to say that is people really, except for a few unlucky lads, we were actually spared for the worst of incidents. It could have been a lot worse. So great to see such a number of drivers making it through the race. And overall, it was a great one indeed.
Yeah, it definitely was. Lots to look forward to going into the final couple of rounds, evidently. And I think we might have a couple of drivers to drag in. We do indeed, Hasse. I think it's time for some interviews.
Yeah, it is. And let's just go from bottom, 3rd place, and up. And we've got for the Ronin Sim Sport Academy there, Sam Bentham, ready for you with Jack Werrell.
So welcome to the commentary box, Sam. That was a busy old race for you. It seemed like you were there or thereabouts with Ryan, and then after the several pit stops, it just started to slip away from you.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, didn't die of boredom. Always a risker in Daytona, so pleased with that. I went a bit of a different way on setup, so I think to the majority of people. I put a bit more downforce on. Said cause I didn't get to do very much practice, to be honest, for this week. So real life got in the way. So I went, okay. So in a straight fight, I'm not going to win, or even get close. So I was like, I'll put a bit more downforce on, be a bit faster on the infield, a bit slower on the straight, and I'll sit in draft, a lift and coast, save fuel, and try and do something on fuel strategy. Just try and mix it up a bit. As it turned out, I put way too much downforce on. Even in the toe, I just couldn't even. Just not getting any closer to Ryan down the straight. So couldn't do anything, and then just didn't have the base. So
I got to say, we did notice as the race went on that on the straights, it just seemed like the other cars just slowly started to pull that gap. I think it was Pim Bao that we saw at one point, just pulling away from yourself, and yeah, it seemed like that there was some sort of issue with the car. But like you say, it's with the extra downforce, it can't exactly be the easiest of tasks, but still finishing P3 overall, P2 in class as well, and that's a good haul of points for yourself and the team going into the latter stages of the season. Where do you think this sudden surge of points will set you up for your finishing position overall in the championship?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't really pay too much attention. Just because it doesn't make any difference. I'll try and do my best at every race, one race at a time, one lap at a time, one corner at a time, and just see what happens. And maybe I'll look at the standings after the final round. But before that, I'm not particularly interested, because it's not as if I'm in the running to win. I think Johnny has got that pretty sewn up at this point. So
it's a great perspective to follow up going into the final few rounds of the season. But Daytona, unique circuit. It's not really something that we can compare it to on the calendar so far. What would you say are the biggest challenges of this circuit?
Not falling asleep. It's so boring. It genuinely is so boring. Just hairpin, bus stop, repeat. Some of the corners are quite hard until you get in. So turn one is a hard corner. I think notoriously especially people who are new to iRacing, lose it a lot there. And even then, it's very, very easy to lock up even when you're used to it. And then there's something about line into the bus stop, and it's quite easy to get that wrong as well. You see quite a lot of people end up on the wall there. Those are probably the two kind of flash points of the 6 corners on the track, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a very busy track for yourself this evening. But once again, another massive well done from myself and everybody here at Simracersworld for the good result. And then the usual final question, while we've got you in the commentary box and live on Simracersworld TV, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, as I think the last time you asked me the question, all the guys at Ronin who are very good to me, helped me a lot in the last few months. Hope to continue with them and continue making some progress. And thank you to everyone there, especially Vincenzo, who you'll see race tomorrow, who does a lot for us in terms of setup and advice and basically everything really. So very grateful to run into him in particular, and I guess also to my partner Emily, who has put up with me practicing for almost every night for the last 3 months, to be honest, and has not complained once. So I have to be grateful to her for that as well. So
brilliant job, and thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box this evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Spa.
Cheers, thanks guys.
So that was Jack Werrell having a bit of a word with Sam Bentham, our 3rd place finisher tonight. I'm gonna have a word with someone who is not Carl Sharkey, but it is Ryan Parkins. And here he is, Ryan, not Carl Sharkey, Parkins. Nice to have you in the booth. Another very, very strong performance from yourself and the Strasse Porsche Sport team to take another podium. 2nd place, Ryan. How do you feel?
I feel great. It's a great little track, unlike what Sam Bentham thinks, but I think it's really good fun. It's really good. We've worked really hard to try and learn this car for this season. It's the first time Porsche Sport have been in this car, so we're still learning every race. And yeah, this race I just thought we'd have to just trim the car out completely to get top speed and make sure we are up there, but I thought we'd done really well. How are you, Dave?
Oh, I couldn't be better in the company of a Carl like yourself. What can I complain? I feel like what's amazing, Ryan, is that this joke could go on forever for seasons to come. It's gonna haunt me for a very long time indeed. So, looking at the pace of the car as well as yourself over these last few races, are you a little, I don't want to say maybe not annoyed, but it could have been a lot better if the car had that kind of BOP and that kind of pace for the entirety of the season, couldn't it?
Well, the BOP took a hit, was it last week, a week before? Well, not Porsche, but the BMW did. But even then, Johnny was still 6 seconds up the road. So he's just got, and him and his team have just got the car dialed in so well. Like I said, we're still learning, we're still finding out what can give a much more advantage than something else. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. I know he's going to shoot off into the distance. We knew that. He actually does slower qualifying time in my tow than without a tow later on his own. So yeah, they're super quick. I'm just happy to keep picking up second place or third. Look at the points, might even be able to snatch a third place if Yoctolit, turns up. But it's really good fun, really enjoying it, and we're just trying our best to go as quick as possible.
Indeed, it has been another very good race, and nice to see Porsche finally being able to be not there only there on a race-to-race basis, but in the standings. I am a big Porsche fan myself. I said it. Oh no. Anyway, but Ryan, it's been a pleasure having you in the booth for another interview, and I'm glad I got it right this time around. So much pressure. But before we let you off the hook, as always, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout to?
Porsche Sport, Luke, Carl, everyone else in the team will put the effort to help with the setups and slowly build us up and doing really well. You guys for doing the broadcast is really good. My dad, Greg Scott, these people go and watch it, and also to my fantastic and wonderful, absolutely amazing fiance who's sitting behind me with her headphones on and she can't hear me or us talk while she's flat out working still, and I'm sitting here racing for an hour and a half. So thanks to her, she's amazing.
Well, good stuff, Ryan. Thanks for joining us, and a very good race it was in the end, and hope to see you. I really do hope to see you again for another interview one of these weeks coming in the coming final 2 races of the season. So that was Ryan Parkins there. Always a pleasure having Ryan along. It gets interesting. I think more that down to me, sometimes at least, than not that it's not interesting speaking to Ryan. I almost made a big mistake there in saying that Ryan wasn't interesting and that I made it interesting. I'm not interesting, I'm just stupid. Anyway, we have another interviewee, and for once, it's not the race winner, because Jennifer Hove is nowhere to be seen. Although he's in chat, but he's not in the interview waiting room. However, we do have a Manxman by the name of Bud, racing for Meraki, who finished 4th today, and he's going to be right there with Jack Werrell.
Welcome to the commentary box, Borden. Massive well done tonight. The race really went your way, and 4th overall. You've got to be chuffed with yourself for that one.
Yeah, evening guys. How's things? Yeah, more than happy with 4th. Didn't connect. I could do with a lot more people not turning up every week. Doing me big favours.
Well, it definitely played into your hands tonight, and this is a big boost of points for yourself and the team. What do you think this has set you up for going into the final few rounds? I'm not sure whether points is something that massively plays on your mind, but this big haul of points, it's going to help your championship position going into the final 2 rounds, isn't it?
Yeah, points is good. Points make points are prizes, whatever the saying is. I don't want to sound like Sam Bentham, but I'm not interested. All I like doing is turning up every 2 weeks and racing and doing a bit of practice in between. I'll end up wherever I end up.
Well, you ended up in a brilliant 4th position today. Going into the next round at Spa, where do you think this is going to lead you? Because obviously you're going to have the momentum from Daytona following you, and if we're put in a similar situation where the grid is minimised, not saying that that is the only reason why you finished where you did today. Obviously, that it's got to be pure driver talent and some brilliant setup work behind the scenes. But Spa, what are your predictions for that one?
With the amount of lads that are turning up each week now, if I can get into the top 10, I'll be happy. If any higher than that, I'd be over the moon. Spa's not my favourite track. A lot of the lads, I can't keep up with these young guns. They're too quick for me. But like I say, if I get in the top 10, I'll be happy.
Well, you've definitely got the potential to do so, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. But while we've got you in the commentary box, as always, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, thanks very much to you guys for the broadcast. It's always good to watch it back. A little boost to your ego. Big shout out to Seb, runs a great championship, and all the guys at Simracersworld.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for the kind words, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Spa.
You will. Take care.
Thank you.
So indeed, a bit of a word there with Bud Boland, and that was of course Jack Werrell with the word. And speaking of Jack Werrell and myself, Hasse, it has been an absolute pleasure. I think I can speak for both of us in saying that. Thank you so much for joining in here tonight on Simracersworld TV. Leave us a like if you liked what you've seen, and don't forget to subscribe for more great action here on the channel. We've reached the conclusion of tonight's event, but we'll be back, Julie, with more on this coming weekend with the Sunday GT3 World League, and of course, not to forget, the GT Evo series tomorrow with the very same Jack Werrell and the man of knowledge from Scotland. It's indeed Peter Mackay who's going to be there on duty tomorrow to take you through it. So don't forget it. Tune in same time, same place tomorrow for more Daytona racing. And with that said, from me, Hasse Rømer, from Jack Werrell in the booth today, take care, have fun, and so long.